Exhibition, the 4th annual, here at Studio Pintura, and we're so happy to have our juror, our guest juror, Gilbert Kapsner, an A.R.C. Associate Living Master, and we're very proud to have him here to judge our show. And we're going to listen to his comments and listen to his picks for the winners, and also some comments about floral painting in general, we hope, and also about the paintings in particular. And if you want to know more about Charles, you can look him up, Charles Gilbert Kapsner. You can Google that. You can also look at his website, which is onefresco.com. And you'll see all kinds of things that are very interesting. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you, Armando. It's a great honor to be here today. It's always a lot of fun to look and see how florals are going to be painted. Now, of course, being a judge, I have my own criteria for that. And with that said, I only work from life when it comes to florals. And as a result, it's a matter of working on special panels, which I either use Russian birch, cherry wood, the wand, maple, things like that, because it's a race against time, whether it's a cut flower or a living plant. So I realized that a lot of these paintings were not done from life, so I had to take that into account, but look at it and look at the knowledge behind each of these individual pieces, however complex or simple it may be. But I think we have a wonderful show here. I think all of you will be pleased with what you see here. And florals are something that I started to get into. I've actually painted them off and on all my life, but it became a serious adventure of mine back in 2004. And I was talking with Armando a little earlier that every around Memorial Day weekend, I would go out and start painting lilacs, because I always like to do a painting of lilacs for my father for Father's Day. Well, that particular weekend, it started raining that day, so I got rained out thinking, well, I'll just grab some, go in the studio and see where I'm at with that. Well, for the next 6-7 days, it was pouring rain, so that meant I couldn't be outside. So I just started gathering more little groups of lilacs, and before I knew it, I had 6 of those done, and then my wife suggested getting into irises, which were the next batch. And so it was a complete learning experience as you go from one species to another, knowing, well, how much time am I going to get on this? And so it's almost like painting a fresco, because if the day goes bad on you or whatever else, you have to start from scratch. And so as I got into this, and I would put in, the whole day on each of these sketches, and it would be, I'd come in the next day, hopefully they're alive. If they weren't, well, okay, now I know how that species has to be dealt with. Obviously, when it comes to lilacs, you're going to get, one good day, maybe a second one, but that's about it. Irises, depending on what type they are going to give you a little bit more of an opportunity. First editions, I find, are the best. Roses will give you some real nice long time, as will lilies. Now, the other thing is I really crank my studio down in the summertime, and I'll keep it like at 62, 65 degrees, something like that. And then you can go in the morning, and then working on these panels, as I mentioned, you can put 2-3 hours in on that painting in the morning, keeping your paint fairly thin as you're just getting ready to build into it. Take a break, come back to that panel again a few hours later, again put a little bit of time into it, take another break for a few hours, and then you can come in at the finish of the day, let's say 6 o'clock, and then you've got really until 8:30, 9 o'clock with natural light in the summer. So you end up having 3 very good sessions in that day, and you learn a lot by doing it that way. And then of course the next day you come in, you oil out your panel, and you sort of start again from that. And the way I do the florals as the complex compositions grew over the years is I don't do the background until after the painting is done. I know it's a complete no-no, but as I'm bringing these different flowers in to develop my compositions, the flowers helping and speaking how the composition goes, I don't know where leaves are going to cross each other, or petals are going to cross each other. So there's a lot of judgment calls that you have to make. And as time goes on, you become a lot more aware of it, you feel much more confident in it, and you end up with some very nice paintings in the end. So with that said, let's kind of walk around a little bit, and then we'll start with our honorable mention. The first one over here is Peonies in Winter by Martha Harms. This is just a really lovely, fresh little piece for me, and people probably would think that right away, because my work is very academic, very tight in regard of the bigger florals of mine that are very reflective of the Dutch and Flemish florals of the 1600s, 1700s, But big surprise, I love work like this. I mean, I have the bulk of the oil paintings in my collection are impressionistic paintings because I really appreciate what a person can do, but also it's the cleanliness that exists here. Excuse me just a second, I can turn this off and start filming on this. Sorry about that, Armando.
That's quite all right. This is live TV, live recording.
Live recording. Well, on that note, these are a group of people that I'm doing a WhatsApp with, fellow students of mine from the studio who see me in Italy, where I went to school back in the 70s and 80s. But getting back to this, I just love what happened here color-wise. Again, it's fresh, it's fun, it's lively. You know, this is a painting you clearly would like to have hanging on your wall. And that's a lot of how I judge things in the end because of being a large collector of paintings and drawings. The bottom line is going to be, do I want it? So that's another one of my criteria. As we walk through now, we'll go to Orchid by Claire Miller. This is a very nice composition. I like the just off-kilter balance. Some people might say, oh geez, that's maybe too symmetrical, but if you look at how the flow is, going from here to there, and then how things are pushed up, there's a very airy quality about this little piece. I really like the positive, the negative space, the subtle light, how it's coming into the window, and the nice use of the warm and cool grays. And it's a very fresh little piece, and once this gets varnished, it's going to really sing. It's fairly new, so you can tell by looking at it. Then we have this one here is Rose. It's called Summer Welcome. Here again, I love the brushwork, the composition, the nice little flow coming down. There's some nice little planes happening right here. For me, I look at a real crispness in the approach of laying paint down like this. And I know we're running into a lot of roses in this show, but that's just really part of what it's all about. And it just has a lot of neat things going on. And when you step back, it really comes together. And again, it'd be a great little piece to have in the cottage. It's got that real, summer sort of feel, that welcoming kind of thing. And so I very much like that. Then we move to our next honorable mention. There are 4, by the way, to show. And it's right here by James Vos, and it's called End of Summer Bouquet. This one here is one that you want to really step back and view, and you'll get a really good sense of, the sense of space. I like the picture planes. We see a real simple in the foreground, then we take that same pattern and move it across to get a middle ground, and then we have the background and the shadow, the subtle little cracks in the wall, and just these lovely little, these either brown-eyed Susan or black-eyed Susan, I'm not sure which one, but again, I'm really partial to fall colors, and so for me, some of my favorite colors in the fall of the year are after like the maples and the birches, so we get like the beginning of the red oak forest in particular, when they really light up. My God, the colors are amazing, and some of your craping aspens, the big things I call the big bear aspen and all that. So just a really wonderful, simple, clean. Again, for me, it's the importance of cleanliness in paint. So now we're going to come to our third place, and it's sunflowers and baby plants. It's a watercolor, and I was really torn by both watercolors that this artist, Coco Conley, had entered in. And again, it's the crispness. I like just the breakaway, even though we don't have really defined planes, picture planes, but yet we do. I mean, if you can really look beyond what is right here, again, the positive versus the negative space, and this is still extending out to me, and this is falling back, and you could even say it drops down. So I really like the crispness, and again, we got this little movement, and again, for me, composition is something that is so important. I've spent 30 plus years working on major fresco compositions, and my early ideas and concept of design composition, 2 things. One, studying Renaissance painters of the 1400s, the mathematics that they would do, but also by working on these big fresco projects, those were site-driven projects. And so the piece you design had to fit that place, and it would fit only that place, because you can't just pick these walls up and move them. Whereas when it comes to composing on a flat surface like this, they are going to be moved around in different parts of the room. So you want to have a good solid composition, knowing that it's got to be solid no matter where you go. One thing I would suggest to people is when you take a painting and design it, turn it all 4 ways. And if it holds together upside down to the left or the right, you will in fact know that it's very solid. Because if all of a sudden it falls apart when you turn it upside down, you might want to change your approach to what you're looking at. It could be, at that point, maybe it's too top heavy, maybe it's too bottom heavy. But again, I would suggest looking at pyramids, diamonds, triangles, and all sorts of shapes like that as it comes to composing, and knowing that as the painter, it's your job to lead your viewer into that piece. I mean, what do I want them to see first? What do I want them to see last? How do they travel from the beginning to the end? So keep a lot of these things in mind, and it'll assist you a lot. And just even maybe take little simple pieces of paper at night and draw circles, squares, diamonds, triangles, and see how you can break down positive versus negative space, because that's really where it is boring as some people might think a background is. No, that is your negative space. That has to captivate the viewer as much as what is within that space. So always keep that in mind. So our second place is this particular piece right here by Richard
Kapsner.
Kapsner, thank you. Sorry, Richard. Anyway, I really am drawn to this painting because of its the rapidity, its crispness, its cleanliness, its sense of atmosphere, the transparencies, the opacities, but more importantly, when we look closely at the application of this paint, there's just the energy coming back at me is just like that. And the fact that within each brush stroke, you see the colors he was mixing with, and there's a beauty to that. And again, just full of atmosphere. Obviously, it's another approach to painting the flower, but it really works very well. And these particular roses are just always lovely. Obviously, you know by looking at them which ones those are when you go to the market. There's beautiful ones, the green and the rose, as they open up. But again, the crisp and freshness of this, and just the sureness. So that was number 2. So now we go to the first one, and it's this one here, which is called Thimbleweed by Yoka Prima. This displays a real intense understanding of nature, and so in a floral it kind of goes beyond what the others are. I mean, we've talked about still life compositions, and generally speaking, that's probably going to be the bulk of what we would see in a floral show are going to be what we've been looking at, because not a lot of people are going to go and take the time to go outside, and in this case too probably have to use some photographic aids. But when you look at this, the understanding of nature is very clear right here. Also the composition, how we are moved back and forth through the painting itself, and so there's just a real strong sense of nature. And that's again something that we can see a lot of times. People go out in their gardens and paint it, and that is a very challenging approach to going out to paint, because you then are really at the mercy of the sun, of the light source, because obviously the sun's moving, so you're going to have a very limited amount of time in which you can go out and work on that. Whereas with the still life, you're controlling the light in the studio, so you can sit and work from morning, noon till night on that. But again, this is something that displays a tremendous sense of technique, of understanding of nature, a true professional. So that's our winning painting. Excuse me, my voice is going. Hold on just a second, I gotta get a drink of water. So if you have any questions, Armando, want to throw something out?
Yeah, Charles, I guess, it's always, first of all, it's wonderful that you agreed to be our juror this year. And I've always have seen your work as highly skilled master work that you always create. And I appreciate just the vast knowledge that you've acquired through your journey as an artist. But as far as general notes for other artists looking to improve their work, if you could name 3-4 things that they should really try to consider as they create a painting, what would those be?
Well, first off, I would say thank all of you for entering into the show, and also those of you who did not get into the show because we have limited space, so we couldn't choose everybody. But I would highly recommend that all of you who were chosen or not chosen to please come and look at the show to see what's in here, because everyone can learn from something someone else has done. So again, I'm going to go back to, like composition. Be very good about and strong about how you compose your piece. Understand your light source. Understand your subject matter. Make sure that when you are painting something, if you're going to go in the still life realm, give me a foreground, give me a middle ground, give me a background, and make sure there's a balance of warms and cools going on in your painting, and stay away from the trendy things today, like like having things disappear, or taking and crossing in with palette knives and big splashes of color. I realize that seems to be all a mode today, but I mean, is it time tested? I don't know. I can't say much about that. But again, like composition is important. Clean colors. Know your lights and darks. Keep your cool, warm balances. Make sure that your negative space is as interesting as your positive space, and do these little exercises, and I think that everything can be learned from that. But please come and see the show, because all of you will walk away with something very positive about this. And again, I want to thank Studio Pintura very, very much for asking me to judge this. It's an honor to be down here to see this, and I look forward to what response we get from the public.
Right, and also I just want to mention that due to some personal reasons, you won't be able to be at the opening weekend. You're traveling out of town, and it's I know it's an important thing for you to take care of. And so I also, we've talked about possibly you coming back a little later, maybe for a discussion, and have some question and answers from some of the artists. Is that something that you think we might be able to do?
Absolutely. We've been talking about that. I do this salon show at River Arts in Little Falls in the fall of the year. I've been doing it since 2008. Unfortunately, last year we didn't do one. I had a display up. But I was talking to Los and Armando, saying, maybe we should have a little, ending day, last day kind of party where people can come in, and I'd definitely be back by then and would be available. So I absolutely would love to be able to meet whoever can come down here. Maybe that's the day you pick up your paintings or whatever. But I mean, I think while the show is clearly out, we do need to do something at the tail end. So after March 30th, 31st, I will be available for whatever time you'd want to do that.
Okay, and well, I'm sure we'll announce that as we communicate with each other. And again, I want to thank you for the wonderful selection for this year's floral exhibition. And I know that everyone here should be proud of getting in, and hopefully if you don't see it in person, you'll see it on YouTube. I'll be posting that as soon as we fully complete and label all the works. And thank you again, Charles, for taking time to really do this endeavor. Appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. And again, thank you everybody for submitting your work.